Hello friends, I hope you are enjoying our video and preparing well. So today we will see a very important topic from the examination point of view in the modern Indian history, that is the revolt of 1857. Now see, the revolt of 1857 constitute an important watermark in the modern Indian history, and it particularly divides the British rule into two periods, that is company rule and crown rule, because as a consequence of the revolt, the company rule of the East India Company in India was taken over by the British Crown and Parliament. So, from the examination point of view, the revolt of 1857 are having basically five dimensions. One is the nature and character of revolt. Nature and character of revolt. Second one is causes of revolt. What were the causes of revolt? The third one is extent of revolt, meaning thereby in which area it was spread and by who were the leaders of the revolt. So extent of revolt. The fourth one is causes of failure of revolt. Causes of failure of revolt. And the fifth one is impact of revolt. Impact of revolt. So these are the five significant areas from the questions are asked. Now see, the nature and character of revolt is the most controversial area. The most controversial area, because different historians has put forward different views, and therefore this is a very hot topic, particularly for the mains examination, and they repeatedly asked the courts of historian to explain the nature and character of revolt. The causes of revolt, obviously again very much important from the mains as well as from the prelims point of view. Extent of revolt, very much important from the prelims point of view. Causes of failure, important both from the prelims and mains point of view. And impact of revolt, again prelims and mains point of view. So we will see each and every aspect in detail. However, it is not possible to cover all the aspects in one lecture, so it might take more than one lecture, because the topic is very much significant from the examination point of view. So, nature and character of revolt. Now see, the issue of nature and character of revolt have been explained differently by different historians, which makes the issue very complicated and controversial, because some says it as merely a sepoy mutiny, while other says a war of independence, while other says neither first nor the war of independence. Again other says a conspiracy of Hinduism and Islam against Christianity. Another says that a war between civilization and barbarism, etc. So the issue is very much controversial, and the controversy is partly because of lack of recorded facts, but based on the accounts of eyewitness, many historians have concluded their own opinion. So lack of recorded facts, both official facts, official document of East India Company, and obviously unofficial by the different eyewitnesses. So there are too many speculations regarding the nature and character of revolt. So we will see one by one. So first let's see about the colonial interpretation. The colonial interpretation. Colonial interpretation. Now see, the colonial historians have painted the nature and character of revolt, particularly based on their racial prejudice, racial prejudice, and also the civilizational superiority that the English and East India Company came to India to civilize the people. So, based on this, there are various historians who put different kind of theories. For example, John Seeley and John Lawrence says that the revolt of 1857 was merely a sepoy mutiny. A sepoy mutiny organized against British authority. It lacked popular mass support. Now see what they are saying, that the revolt of 1857 was merely a sepoy mutiny organized against British authority, East India Company, but it did not have any mass support, and therefore it was not more than a sepoy mutiny. However, this viewpoint is obviously not correct because in several regions, particularly in the areas of Awadh and parts of Bihar, particularly Ara, Shahabad, Buxar, etc. It had the support of masses. Masses too participated in the revolt, and they particularly organized revolt against feudal elements like zamindars, landlords, etc. So the interpretation that it was merely a sepoy mutiny is obviously not correct. The second colonial interpretation has been put forward by L.E.R. Rees. Now see, the historian L.E.R. Rees says that it was a conspiracy of Hindus and Muslims against Christianity, because they consider themselves as Christians, the Britishers, and they consider it as the attempt of Hindus and Muslims to overthrow the Christian missionaries and Christian rulers in India. But this view is based on racial prejudice, because during the course of event of 1857, obviously religious slogans were raised. For example, terms like jihad or infidels, etc. for the British rulers. However, these were only meant to organize people and did not have any religious motive other than that. Also, not all Hindus and Muslims participated in the revolt, because see, while Bengal, Awadh, Bihar, etc. participated, but Madras, Bombay, and some of the local zamindars or even native princes like Scindia, etc. remained loyal and even helped the British to suppress the revolt. So if it would have been had a war of Hindus and Muslims against Christianity, then certainly all the Hindus could have been united together, but it was not the case, and therefore this hypothesis is also not correct. Also, after the course of time, if you see, then obviously at the end Christians certainly won, but not Christianity, because the atrocities committed to suppress the revolt was against the basic tenet of any religion. For example, hanging people without giving them a fair trial, or swelling them into the skin of pigs or cows and forcing them to eat the meat of pig and cow, etc., are against the basic tenet of any religion. So obviously the hypothesis of L.E.R. Rees is certainly not correct. Then the third hypothesis is again given by L.E.R. Rees. Given by again L.E.R. Rees, that it was a war between civilization and barbarism. Meaning thereby, what he said, that since the Britishers were civilized people and Indians were barbar, therefore the clash was the outcome of civilization versus barbarism. So obviously again racial prejudice and civilizational superiority, that is Weizmann burden theory. However, this hypothesis is also not correct, because in the event of 1857, atrocities were committed from both the sides, on both sides. Meaning thereby, while Indian rebels murdered British even women and children at Delhi, Lucknow, Kanpur, whereas the Britishers also committed atrocities on Indian population, and even the civilians who did not participate in the revolt were also hanged. And even in the Allahabad or Banaras region, every single tree was full of hanging of innocent people without giving a fair trial. And the Muslims in particular were forced to eat pork. So if any country who is claiming to have been a civilization or civilized people, the atrocities committed by the British authorities also were so severe that they cannot claim that they were the civilized people and Indians were the barbarism. So obviously this hypothesis of Rees is also wrong. Then the next one, is of T.R. Holmes. Now see, T.R. Holmes says that it was a plant, a Hindu-Muslim plant conspiracy against Christians. Obviously we have already seen L.E.R. Rees also said the same thing, T.R. Holmes also said the same thing, so criticism were the same. Then the next one, the Benjamin Disraeli, at that point of time conservative leader in the House of Commons, said that it was certainly a war of national character, because the rise and fall of empire, are not matters of greased cartouche, greased cartridge, but the outcome of prolonged accumulated grievances. Now see, obviously he was right in the criticism of the rule of East India Company, that whether it was a war of national character we will see later on, but obviously it was not merely because of the grease cartridge introduced by the East India Company in the new Enfield rifles, but obviously the accumulated grievances related to socio-economic, administrative, political, etc. So it was the outcome of a accumulated grievances of accumulating over a period of time, and it got outburst in the 1857. Then now some recent researches particularly in England, Australia and US, different historians have researched again the nature and character of 1857, and Judith Brown, a British historian, has given a very significant interpretation against the colonial interpretation of revolt of 1857. What she says, that at times many British historians see revolt of 1857 merely as a sepoy mutiny because any larger interpretation would cast doubt on the very nature of British rule, meaning thereby that obviously the colonial interpretation has a compulsion to put this as a sepoy mutiny, because any larger interpretation that it was more than sepoy mutiny had the popular or wider support will cast the doubt on the very nature of British rule, because they were saying that they are on a mission to civilize India, and the popular theory was white man burden theory, that it is the responsibility of white man to civilize the uncivilized races of the world, particularly in India and Africa. So she has given a very rightful interpretation regarding the nature and character of the revolt of 1857. Then another historian, Stanley Wolport of United States of America, had said, Stanley Wolport had said that it was far more than a sepoy mutiny, but still less than a national revolt. Obviously, he is also very much right in his analysis that yes, what started as merely a sepoy mutiny sooner or later got the popular support of popular masses, but could not retain a national character because of the lack of feeling of nationalism at that point of time. as nationalism understood in the modern sense, because India was mainly a geographical expression, but the Bengal army was suppressed by Madras army and Punjab army, and the many native princes remained loyal, zamindars remained loyal, etc. So obviously the national character was lacking, but it was more than a sepoy mutiny. So obviously Stanley Walpole has also analyzed in a very rightful way. Now we will see what Indian historians has to say about the nature and character of revolt of 1857, because it's so much controversial that every year UPSC, in one way or another, after some years, they certainly ask regarding the nature and character of the revolt. So see, in the Indian circle, the debate about the nature and character of revolt arose when Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, a revolutionary, published a book called The Indian War of Independence. The Indian War of Independence. And in this book, it was published in London in 1909. He celebrated in 1907 the golden jubilee of revolt of 1857. So in his book he argued that the 1857 was the first war of independence, and also said that it was an excellent example of Hindu-Muslim unity. So he asked the people of India or masses to again form the unity, because see, in 1909, already in 1906, Muslim League was formed and the Muslim masses started remaining aloof from the national politics. So, and the policy of divide and rule was established, and in 1909 again, under Morley-Minto reforms, the communal electorate was introduced, through which the Muslim masses were given the right to choose to the Muslim representatives only. So obviously it was an excellent example of Hindu-Muslim unity, and he called it as the first war of independence. And from here the critical debate regarding the nature and character of the revolt of 1857 started. So obviously V.T. Savarkar at that point of time did not took it literally, but he wanted basically to arouse masses to form unity and throw the yoke of British rule. So his purpose was to organize people rather than to give the interpretation as the first war of independence, because he was not very much convinced or clear in the idea of first war of independence. But yes, certainly it was used as a tool to arouse the masses, to organize a common front, as like in the 1857, to overthrow the British yoke. Then some of the historians have done, Indian historians have done some unbiased analysis of the nature and character of the revolt of 1857. Now see, Indian interpretation. So, two prominent names emerge in the Indian interpretation are Dr. R.C. Majumdar and Dr. S.P. Sen. Both are having some point of convergence regarding the nature and character of the revolt. However, there are some point of divergence also on the nature and character of revolt. So the point of convergence between R.C. Majumdar and Dr. S.P. Sen are basically both of them agree that there was lack of planning. So if anyone is saying that it was a planned revolt, it cannot be held true, because there was lack of planning and it was a sudden outburst. Because merely there are very few recorded facts. For example, Nana Sahib visited Lucknow and Ambala in March, April 1857, and the revolt broke out in May 1857. It does not mean that it was planned by Nana Sahib. Again, it said that Munshi Azimullah was in the Britain pleading before the court of director for the getting the pension of Nana Sahib, and in his return he visited Persia as well as Ottoman Empire, particularly for Crimean War situation. So it doesn't mean he sought any foreign support. Also, there were some evidence that chapatis and lotus were circulated to convey messages among rebels. However, this circulation of chapati and lotus also doesn't conclusively prove that it had an element of planning, and during the trial of 1858-59, even it was proved that the Bahadur Shah Zafar was also taken by surprise when the rebels came from Meerut on 11th May and asked him to lead the movement. So the element of planning was lacking, and it was particularly a sudden outburst. The second thing, both of them maintain that the element of nationalism was also absent, as it is understood in the modern sense, because both of them agree that India at that point of time was mainly a geographical expression. Meaning thereby that even the Bengalis, Biharis, then people of Marathis, then Madrasis and Punjabis, etc. They all did not know or did not have the consciousness that they belong to the same nation, and therefore they could not get united, and the Madras and Punjab army was used against Bengal army to suppress the revolt. Also, the nationalism in modern sense was in embryo, meaning thereby it was in the nascent stage and yet to evolve. Nascent stage. India was still not a nation in the modern sense, but a nation in making, because the rise of nationalism, which took its final step during 1870s, was still in the embryo stage in the modern sense. And obviously there was local nationalism. For example, many native princes or zamindars remained loyal to the British, and also even the Rani of Jhansi, Lakshmi Bai, said that मैं झांसी नहीं दूंगी, meaning thereby that she was fighting mainly to retain the Gaddi of Jhansi and not that of India. Again, Nana Sahab was mainly concerned about his pension, and he clearly said that if the pension is granted, he won't revolt. Again, the Talukdars of Awadh were mainly fighting for their previous feudal rights, which was taken away by the annexation of Awadh in 1856 by Lord Dalhousie. So they were fighting for feudal rights. Again, neither Bahadur Shah Zafar was not the national leader, meaning thereby that none of the king were eager to come under the one banner. So the element of nationalism was lacking, and India was mainly a geographical expression. So these 2 points, that lack of planning and the local nationalism was only there, so it did not have a national character, has the point of convergence between Dr. R.C. Majumdar and Dr. S.P. Sen. Now we will see the different interpretation by them on the point of divergence. Now see, based on these analyses, Dr. R.C. Majumdar considers considers that the revolt of 1857 was a link in the chain of events, meaning thereby that similar revolts on the local level was going on ever since the inception of British rule in India. For example, if you see the pattern, in 1770 there was Sannyasi revolt in Bengal, Then in 1806 there was revolt by the mutiny by the soldiers in Vellore. Again in 1824 there was mutiny by soldiers at Barakpur. Then again in 1852 there was mutiny at Firozpur. Then during the first Anglo-Afghan War 1839 to 42 again there was a mutiny during Anglo-Afghan War. Then there was coal uprising in 1831 and 32. There was Santhal uprising in 1855-56. So there was already a chain of events before 1857. So it was just a link on a larger scale, but it was not a war of independence, but still it was just a link in the chain of events already based on all these facts. So what he said, that the revolt of 1857, which is a very famous statement, has been asked again and again in the various examinations, particularly in the mains examination, that it was neither first nor national war of independence. So it has been asked several times by the UPSC also that the revolt of 1857 was neither first because it was a chain of events, nor national because the nationalism was in embryo. India was merely a geographical connotation. War of independence, meaning thereby there was only an anti-British feeling, but there was no goal, there was no planning, there was no future planning that what kind of government, but they wanted to restore the old aristocratic method. So it was neither first nor national nor war of independence. So that is the final conclusion of R.C. Majumdar. However, R.C. Majumdar also says that the significance of revolt of 1857 was immense, and but he argues that Julius Caesar was more powerful after death than alive. Meaning thereby, what he said, that the impact of 1857 was such that it, for the generations of nationalists, it served as a inspiration to unite together and throw the yoke of British rule. So he said that the significance was very much important, although it was just a link in the chain of events. It was neither for nor National War of Independence, but the significance was immense, and we compared it with the Julius Caesar, dead was more powerful than he was alive. So it served as a inspiration for the generation of nationalists after 1857. Then the hypothesis of Dr. S.P. Sen, despite having the point of convergence with Dr. R.C. Majumdar, what he said, that despite having all the limitations like lack of planning or absence of nationalism in modern sense, still he argues that it was a national war of independence. What he says, that although it lacked the support of masses, however, the revolt and rebellion is always the work of minority. Minority in the sense less people, because he argued that during American War of Independence from 1775 to 83, and again in the French Revolution also, French Revolution of 1789, there were very few people who were actually wanted to have the mutiny or war, but there were many loyalists, and these loyalists were in the majority. However, the revolution was brought by the minority who were leading the war. So therefore he said that the revolt and rebellion is always the work of minority, and it was a national war of independence. He argues that what started merely as a mutiny, as a sepoy mutiny, soon assumed a national character when sepoy proclaimed Bahadur Shah Zafar as Shahanshah-e Hindustan, Shahanshah-e-Hindustan, because he was the symbol of Mughal kingdom. So it soon assumed a national character, although it was started as a mutiny, and then again he says that it got converted into a rebellion by the support of masses, particularly peasantry in Awadh and Bihar region against the feudal elements like zamindars. So he has given his own interpretation that it was a national war of independence because revolt and rebellion are the work of minorities, and what started merely as a mutiny soon became assumed a national character when the sepoy approached the Bahadur Shah Zafar to lead the movement and proclaimed it as Shahanshah-e-Hindustan, and then it converted as a rebellion by the support of masses in Awadh and Bihar region against the feudal elements. And one thing which was common, that all of them wanted to throw off the yoke of British rule. So this is his interpretation regarding the nature and character of the revolt of 1857. Then then Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in his book The Discovery of India, has also interpreted about the nature and character of revolt. And what he said that obviously there was lack of planning. It was mainly driven for local grievances. For example, talukdars for their feudal rights, then peasantry in Awadh and Bengal region, Bihar region for against Zamindari system, then Rani of Jhansi for saving the Jhansi from annexation, or Nana Sahib for pension, etc. So there was based on local grievances against feudal aspects. And also there was lack of future vision, because the rebel did not have a common vision that what kind of governmental setup, etc. they are going to give after the revolt, and they were mainly driven by anti-British feeling. So once the British will left India, then what kind of government, whether the Bahadur Shah Zafar is going to the national leader, or again it will be a fragmented polity as in the case of beginning of 18th century. So it was mainly driven by anti-British feeling, and therefore calling it as a war of independence, because there was no vision of independence but only anti-British feeling and throwing the yoke of Britishers from India. War of independence is a misnomer. So it did not have a national character. So the national character was missing because India was still a nation in making and not a full-fledged nation in the modern sense, and the modern nationalism was lacking. So all these interpretations are for the revolt of 1857, and still researches are going on, and different historians give different interpretations regarding the nature and character of revolt of 1857. So how to conclude it? So the conclusion aspect of the revolt of 1857. Conclusion. So regarding the nature and character of revolt of 1857, obviously the conclusion is difficult to arrive because there is very much controversy, and different interpretations have been given by different historians. But one thing must be said while we conclude the nature and character of revolt of 1857, that whatever the nature and character of revolt of 1857 may be, it cannot be denied that it was due to long accumulated grievances of people and sepoys, native native princes, etc., against the oppressive rule of British East India Company. Oppressive rule of East India Company. Also, it was first serious attempt to overthrow the British yoke and had a common anti-British feeling, and therefore the revolt of 1857 constitute an important watermark in modern Indian history. So it can be concluded in this way, because obviously there is lot of controversy and no definite interpretation can be given, because historians even do not agree on a common point of view. So with this we come to the end of the nature and character of the revolt of 1857. So if you have any doubt, you can ask in the comment section, or you can send us mail on the easylearning.dr@gmail.com. So kindly like, subscribe and share our channel, and also give your feedback in the comment section. Thank you.